Okay, we are good. Okay. Hello, and welcome.
Hello, and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. For this particular series, I am joined by my wonderful co-host,
ThatDarnKitteh.
ThatDarnKitteh, and I are both going into this story completely new with almost no knowledge of the story or world.
Each segment, we intend to cover what happens in each new chapter and discuss our experience along the way. This is Mistborn Abridged, a blind read-through. And today we will be covering Chapter 27.
Chapter 27! Yes.
Yes. Thoughts?
This might be Brandon Sanderson's best chapter in the book so far.
Whoa. That's high praise.
Indeed. How about
Okay.
you, Kitteh?
I won't go and say it's my favorite chapter. It was a good chapter. I think, yeah. We both had. You were properly like jazzed about this. Okay. This. So I don't know how this managed to just be cool for me. I don't know. Maybe.
I don't necessarily think it's my favorite chapter, but I
Okay.
think as far as Brandon Sanderson's writings, it is his
Oh.
best chapter. Now, I have said in the past, I think where Brandon Sanderson truly excels as a writer is in the banter and the dialogue and the wit between all of the different characters and the amount of character that he is able to just pack in there, which is incredible. In this chapter, I think we get a lot of repetition of themes across different storylines. I think we have lines that seem to be about one thing, but might also connect to other things.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was some really subtle work in this chapter.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Let us go forth and appreciate it in very high detail.
Yes. And I even wrote notes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Yes. The question is, do I want to read all of my incomprehensible notes right now, or hope that I remember to cite my notes when we get to that point in the chapter?
I wonder if I can see what happens. Say them.
Okay, yes. Okay. They address Vin feeling the Lord Ruler,
Mm-hmm.
which for a little while there, I was wondering, did Kitteh and I read into something that perhaps isn't supposed to be there? But now we get that confirmation. Yes, she did. And I think Kelsier is wrong. I think Kelsier is very wrong about a lot of things in this chapter. But this is one thing I think he is wrong about when he says that Vin can't or shouldn't be able to.
Exactly.
I think Kelsier is wrong about gold and what it does. And it made me wonder, what are the benefits to this metal? There have to be benefits. It has to be important. If Brandon Sanderson has the characters saying, don't worry about it, it's weird, just forget about it. No, it's like, it matters.
There's something. Yeah, this is why would it exist otherwise? It really, my mind was really bent out of shape with that revelation. I didn't know how to feel about it. I was just like, huh? So I want to go over it again. I need to process it.
Excellent. Especially because Kelsier's description of what it is, I don't think is in line with what we read Vin's event to have been.
Yeah. We have to get there. No, it was a very weird, yeah.
Yes. And then I wrote, what if the Lord Ruler can do feruchemy and uses it to extend his life every 3 days, and the keepers can extend their lives too? How does this connect to his hatred for feruchemy? I wrote keepers. I might have meant inquisitors, because I think it mentions that in this chapter that inquisitors live longer than normal. They're not permanent.
I mean,
Like immortal?
we do also have major thing, I thought, in the epigraph, the Lord Ruler's half terrace,
Wait, what?
pure-blooded, only a
Mm,
terraceman of pure blood should have been chosen as the hero, where I would think he's a terraceman who's only half a terraceman.
that
It
does
could be that,
suggest he might be an impure
because
terraceman.
he could do Verukami, you say it so well. Yeah,
Ferukemi or Ferukami?
Verukami!
Either.
Verukami. I actually need to go back to the book and the audiobook. Forget how they said it. But I'm saying, like, you were just talking about the Lord Ruler extending his life every 3 days using that terrace. Hello.
This does speak to many of the questions that I had asked in a previous chapter about Ferokemi are finally answered in
Yeah.
this chapter. That felt really good.
Using some cool dialogue techniques.
Yes.
Been very cute as well. I don't know, I found that very cute the way she was.
Yes. And then I wrote, if the deepness is a pulling metal, because the Lord Ruler is feeling it pulling him in, what if Ferokimi created Allomancy / deepness, and that's why he's trying to destroy or defeat the Keepers? Maybe the existence of Ferokemi is what's fueling the deepness. And then I wrote, are Inquisitors' eye things metal mines?
Interesting.
And then I wrote a quick exchange, but I'm going to save that exchange for when we actually get to it.
Okay. Let's get to it. That's front-loaded AF, but I enjoyed that.
Excellent. I think I've finally discovered why Rashek resents me so much. He does not believe that an outsider such as I, a foreigner, could possibly be the hero of ages. He believes that I have somehow tricked the philosophers, that I wear the piercings of the hero unjustly. According to Rashek, only a terraceman of pure blood should have been chosen as the hero. Oddly, I find myself more determined because of his hatred. I must prove to him that I can perform this task.
So we got a pierced Lord Ruler as well.
Yes.
And terracemen have lots of piercings.
It sounds as if... See, I don't think he's part terraceman, but I think that he probably partook in some initiation rites into the terrace culture, probably how he got these piercings. That was my fill in the blankism.
But then I do want to know how. Okay, if the theory is Ferokemi is what he's doing, how is is the theory then that wasn't only a terraceman thing? It was something that could occur in any human.
Interesting. Could it be taught, or is it a biological?
Because remember that they do when they do talk about terracemen, they talk about their mysterious powers. Maybe that doesn't mean that it isn't transferable or some in some way, that it is just a racial thing. It could be a cultural thing.
The other thing is, and I don't know why I'm assuming Rashek is correct here, but if only a terraceman of pure blood can be the hero, maybe we're wrong. It's not Kelsier. It's not Vin. It is specifically Sazed.
Woohoo! I don't feel very strongly about that, but it would be cool.
Yeah. Oh man. No, I have a hard time imagining it's Sazed.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I feel like there would have been more.
Yeah.
Regard. Yeah.
That would be like a silly reveal. I'd be like, okay, what?
Yeah. But I don't know. Vin is special.
She's a special girl. Really, she we will get into again what indicates that she feels something more.
Yeah.
She is special.
Shall we get into the chapter then?
Let us.
It was a subdued group that returned to Klups's shop that evening. The executions had stretched for hours. There had been no denunciations, no explanations by the ministry or the Lord Ruler, just execution after execution after execution. Once the captives were gone, the Lord Ruler and his obligators had ridden away, leaving a pile of corpses on the platform and bloodied water running in the fountains. As Kelsier's crew returned to the kitchen, Vin realized that her headache no longer bothered her. Her pain now seemed insignificant. The bay wraps remained on the table, thoughtfully covered by one of the housemaids. No one reached for them. All right, let's plan this out. How should we proceed? Dachshund recovered a stack of papers from the side of the room as he walked over to seat himself. With the garrison gone, our main focus becomes the nobility. Indeed, if we truly intend to seize the treasury with only a few thousand soldiers, then we're certainly going to need something to distract the palace guard and keep the nobility from taking the city away from us. The house war, therefore, becomes of paramount importance. My thoughts exactly.
But what happens when the house war is over? Some houses will come out on top, and then we'll have to deal with them.
I don't intend for the house war to ever end, Vin. Or at least not for a long while. The Lord Ruler makes dictates and the ministry polices his followers, but the nobility are the ones who actually force the Ska to work. So if we bring down enough noble houses, the government may collapse on its own. We can't fight the entire final empire as a whole. It's too big, but we might be able to shatter it and then make the pieces fight each other. We need to put financial strain on the great houses. The aristocracy is primarily a financial institution, and lack of funds will bring any house down. Breeze, we might need to use some of your aliases. So far, I've really been the only one in the crew working on the house war, but if we're going to make this city snap before the garrison returns, we'll need to step up our efforts. Oh, very well. We'll just have to be extremely careful to make certain no one accidentally recognizes me as someone I shouldn't be. I can't go to parties or functions, but I can probably do solitary house visits. Same for you, Docs. I figured as much. It'll be dangerous for both of you, but speed will be essential. Vin will remain our main spy, and we'll probably want her to start spreading some bad information, anything to make the nobility uncertain. We should probably focus our attentions on the top, then. Indeed. If we can make the most powerful houses look vulnerable, then their enemies will be quick to strike. Only after the powerful houses are gone will people realize that they were the ones really supporting the economy. The room fell quiet for a second, then several heads turned toward Vin.
What?
They're talking about House Venture, Vin. It's the most powerful of the great houses. If Venture falls, the entire final empire would feel the tremors. Vin sat silently for a moment.
They're not all bad people.
Perhaps, but Lord Straff Venture certainly is, and his family sits at the very head of the final empire. House Venture needs to go, and you already have an in with one of its most important members.
I thought you wanted me to stay away from England,
she thought with annoyance. Just keep your ears open, child. See if you can get the lad to talk about his house's finances. Find us a bit of leverage, and we'll do the rest.
Just like the game Ellen hates so much.
However, the executions were still fresh in her mind. That sort of thing had to be stopped. Besides, even Ellen said he didn't like his father or his house very much. Maybe she could find something.
I'll see what I can do.
All right, let's take a moment there.
Mm-hmm.
In one of Brandon Sanderson's lectures, I think he talks about different ways in which heist plot structures can be resolved. I think specifically, like, there are two different cultures. I think there are like European heists and American heists. And one of those structures involves all of the characters having to suddenly fill in. Things go awry, and suddenly the characters all have to slot into one of the other characters' field of expertise. And I think this chapter is establishing that. Breeze and Docs are going to have to start spying more, and then we're about to get to it, but Ham is going to have to be the one doing the recruiting from here on out. So I think that's what we're getting in this chapter.
Okay, yeah. What else did he say about the highest resolution thing once it's...
I don't remember. It has been a very long time since I watched them, and I've kind of been avoiding them since starting the series.
Yeah.
Like I only half remember what he said about this series specifically, but I don't want to accidentally re-spoil anything.
Yeah, that's because I was very interested in listening to lectures and things like that, but
I don't actually think he says all that much. It's probably safe to go back and
just
rewatch.
Accidentally, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And I just I don't think it would ruin anything. I think we'd be like, oh, and then want to get to it to figure it out.
Right.
This is not to endorse spoilers in the comments. But
yes, no spoilers, please.
No.
We are both extremely grateful that there have been as few as there have been up to this point. So let's keep that going.
Yeah, it's great.
But also, so that was in my mind as I read this chapter, expertly done. And Vin seems to be ready to not be pro-venture. What did you make of that?
She's not happy about it, but she has just seen the executions. It's pretty funny. I don't know. I didn't like the phrasing of that sort of thing needed to stop. It's like that sort of thing. It just seems very light, a light phrasing to use. That sort of thing is just, I don't really like it. It's distasteful. That's a weird phrasing, but that's just that's me. But yes, it does need to stop. So yeah, I see that she knows what's at stake. She has to put that sort of thing aside. She has to put her feelings aside because it is for the greater good. She's hoping I don't think she's ready to, discard Elend. She's determined to make some sort of place for him so that he doesn't have to die.
Right. I'm actually kind of excited for the drama of it coming up. What can I say? I'm so for what this could mean for their relationship and what's going to happen when Elend finds out, because of course he's going to find out at some point.
That's crazy. Yeah, what if he reacts really badly and he is suddenly just bigoted and oh, gross. I don't know.
And then push Vin into the arms of one very attractive Lestibornes.
Yes, exactly. I wish I could speak his dialect so I could make a joke in his dialect about I was trying and then my brain was like, don't you dare.
Oh man. No, seriously though, it feels so juicy and I cannot wait to see these plot threads materialize.
Yeah. She's not done with this guy. She's not done with him yet. So she's gonna try. But I mean, also just question about Elend though. It's like, okay, cool, yeah, you don't like your dad, but are you willing to kill him? Yeah, there's a difference between being rebellious and...
There's going to very much be an "you've made a fool of me" feeling, I think, instilled in Elend when he finds out.
Yeah, then maybe what would be cool would be where Vin, there's a bit of time where Vin is worried he's going to just expose her, and then she has to sit and wait and figure out whether he is gonna, and then he doesn't.
Ooh, that would be so cool.
Yeah, so even if this goes the romancy way and it goes right, we don't get a spook Vin,
which would be fine.
Yeah, if this does actually work, there is interesting things that Sanderson could do with all of that. It's not going to be boring.
The chess pieces are in play, and I'm so excited to see the moves.
Let's go.
A knock came at the front door, answered by one of the apprentices. A few moments later, Sazed, clad in a ska cloak to hide his features, entered the kitchen. "You're early, Saz." "I try to make it a habit, Mr. Kelsier." That's a habit someone else could afford to pick up. If you're always on time, it implies that you never have anything better you should be doing, Saz. How are the men? As good as can be expected, Mr. Kelsier. But they cannot hide in their Renault warehouses forever. So I'm glad we got that little bit of information.
Yeah, where are they? Yeah. Yeah.
I know. Dox, Ham, I'll need you to work on this problem. There are 2,000 men left from our army. I want you to get them into Luthadel. We'll find a way. You want us to keep training them? Kelsier nodded. Then we'll have to hide them in squads. We don't have the resources to train men individually. Say, a couple hundred men per team, hidden in slums near one another. Make sure none of the teams know about the others, or that we'll intend to strike at the palace. With that many men in town, there's a chance some of them will eventually get taken by the obligators for one reason or another. Tell each group that it's the only one that didn't get disbanded, and that it's being retained just in case it's needed at some point in the future. That's cool. So
Yeah.
the way I imagine this playing out is each individual squad will think they are the only one, and then the event will happen and they will all activate thinking they're the only one, but they'll see everyone else activate, and that will get, the steam rolling on thinking that they're even more powerful than they had initially thought. And it's going to create a positive morale boost. And suddenly the whole city, even folks who weren't in any of the squads, will rise up as well.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The getting people that weren't in the squads, like some sort of organic reaction just happens in that way. But it could also just backfire, because then there is chaos as well, because
True.
one group rises up and the other, you said they recognize each other, in terms of, but I mean, I don't know, I'm sure it would be pretty easy to figure out who's fighting for who. So my initial thought when you were explaining that was, okay, but his name shall be Chaos. So I'm like, Kelsier gonna do, like, Kelsier thinks this is a great plan again. I'm just scared. After our little foray into chaos in the previous chapters, I'm hoping this. I know things can go wrong. That's what I think it's a good idea. Let's say that. I think it's a good idea. But when you laid it out like that, I was like, oh, it can go wrong so many ways. But look, we need things to go right, okay? I think we've got enough turmoil. Okay, we're good.
We're due some good news, please.
Yes. Please get something work. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. I think that is a mechanism that could really work. So if it goes right, it'll go very right.
Yeah.
I'm also wondering if the groups actually do eventually find out about each other because they're trying to recruit. Like they would have to be very, they would have to be very disciplined about, because they'd be like, oh, it's just us. No, we can't do this by ourselves. And it is kind of like weird to think, okay, what would you tell them that makes them the last ones, and they'll accept that they're the last ones and that they're useful at all, like just 100 men. But yeah, I guess if they have hope. Yeah,
and Breeze kind of brushes it off, but they are about to discuss the morale issue.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You also said that recruitment needed to be continued. I'd like at least twice as many troops before we try to pull this off. That's going to be tough, considering our army's failure. What failure? Tell them the truth, that our army successfully neutralized the garrison. Though most of them died doing it. We can gloss over that part. The people will be angry at the executions. That should make them more willing to listen to us. Gathering more troops is going to be your main task over the next few months, Ham. That's not much time, but I'll see what I can do. Good. Saz, did the note come? It did, Mr. Kelsier, Saz had said, pulling a letter from beneath his cloak and handing it to Kelsier. And what would that be? A message from Marsh. He's in the city and he has news. What news? He doesn't say, Kelsier said, grabbing a bay wrap. But he gave instructions on where to meet him tonight. He walked over, picking up a standard ska cloak. I'm going to go scout the location before it gets dark. Coming, Vin? She nodded, standing. The rest of you keep working on the plan. In 2 months' time, I want this city to be so tense that when it finally breaks, even the Lord Ruler won't be able to hold it together. So that's the first scene.
Yeah, renewed heist. Heist is renewed. New plan kind of vibes. Like I feel like we're going again. Like if there was a musical score to this, we would have a certain theme that was the same as when they last started off, kind of thing.
Yes. I'm still very much living in that space of they need to get it done sooner rather than later to capitalize on the army or the garrison not being in Luthadel. And I feel like if they're going to be putting it off for 2 more months, I'm hesitant.
I'm same. And I feel like as much as they think that that's going to happen, like they have that much time, or they're going to be trying and rushing, I feel like they'll be pushed forward again. They'll be the plan will have to come together a lot quicker in this for the same sort of reasons, where they just have no control over the timing. So they're just going to have to do their best, see what they can do. That both Ham says, I'll see what I can do. Vin says, I'll see what I can do. So everyone's just trying to see what they can do. And I feel like that's going to happen with this current plan. I don't think it's going to have enough space in time to unfold the way they want it to. But they'll still try and implement it.
Yep.
There's something you're not telling us, isn't there?
Vin said, looking away from the window, turning toward Kelsier.
A part of the plan.
Kelsier glanced over at her in the darkness. Marsh's chosen meeting place was an abandoned building within the Twists, one of the most impoverished Ska slums. Kelsier had located a second abandoned building across from the one they would meet in, and he and Vin waited on the top floor, watching the street for signs of Marsh. Why do you ask me that?
Because of the Lord Ruler. I felt his power today. I don't think the others could sense it. Not like a Mistborn can. But I know you must have.
She looked up again, meeting Kelsier's eyes.
You're still planning to get him out of the city before we try to take the palace, right?
Don't worry about the Lord Ruler. The 11th metal will take care of him. Now, I'm really glad that Vin said that she felt his power today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that was part of there was a really ominous display of just how formidable his power is in terms of like how far his reach is in terms of with his elemency, in terms of the way he makes people feel, that sort of thing. The way that Kelsier had to work so hard to get a small group to feel differently. Like there was a lot of demonstration of exactly how powerful he is. So Vin is going to talk more about like how she felt about it, but feeling his power in terms of the vast difference between him and her, that was quite scary. So I like that she made this connection. She was like, there needs to be something more, because if you are still willing to have something happen to this guy, we need to talk about that. That's how is that going to happen? Because he might not be a god, but he is very powerful.
Yes. Vin frowned. Outside, the sun was setting in a fiery blaze of frustration. Cool line. Mm-hmm. The mists would come soon, and supposedly Marsh would arrive a short time later.
The 11th metal,
she thought, remembering the skepticism with which the other crew members regarded it.
Is it real?
The 11th metal? Of course it is. I showed it to you, remember?
That's not what I mean. Are the legends real? Are you lying?
I love this interaction so much. Kelsier turned toward her, frowning slightly, then he smirked. You're a very blunt girl, Vin.
I know.
Kelsier's smile broadened. The answer is no. I'm not lying. The legends are real, though it took some time for me to find them.
And that bit of metal you showed us really is the 11th metal?
I think so.
But you don't know how to use it.
And this is it. This is the Kelsier growth we've been waiting for. Kelsier seemed to weigh her question, then shook his head. No, I don't.
That's not very comforting.
Good. Now that he has said it.
Good. Let's confront it. Let's make it,
We've got another mind on the problem.
Exactly.
and we learned why he's so hesitant to try it, although they don't address whether or not it could be used in feruchemy, but we understand why he's scared to use it. I'm almost afraid that Vin is going to try to pickpocket it and try it herself. What do you think of that possibility?
I think that's a Vin possibility. If she felt she had enough motive for it, like she was frustrated enough with Calcia for not trying, it's something she would do. If the stakes got high enough for her that she wanted to rush this forward.
I could imagine her thinking something to the effect of, I want this plan to work. This plan will only succeed if Kelsier is alive. So I have to be the one to try it and help him in this way.
Adding it to the theories. I agree. I'm agnostic in terms of whether it happens. It's a possibility. And I like speculating. That's what's so much fun about doing this.
I just hope that he keeps that medal under lock and key all the time.
So you don't want Vin to do it, but you know that she would try?
I mean, it's dangerous. I don't know what else they can do. At some point, they have to try it, right? If there's no other way.
Yeah.
And
what is it for otherwise?
Right. And when does Kelsier intend to try it? Does he think he's going to try the medal in the presence of the Lord Ruler with no knowledge of what it does?
Yeah, like haha, like takes it out and then just by luck it works. Like I don't think I would like that, and I don't think it would be smart. Even if that did happen and he was lucky, no, I don't like that idea. It's not.
Okay, plot twist. They capture Cruz Geffenry and they force him to try it to see if it kills him.
Oh my god. Sometimes you do that and you're right. So that's actually that's an option. But then the thing is, you're then giving him the 11th mental power. Who knows what he'll do with it if we capture him and force him to do stuff? It's not a very good plan.
True.
It's not a good plan, and then
not a good plan. Oh man. Kelsier shrugged, turning to look out the window. Even if I don't discover the secret in time, I doubt the Lord Ruler will be as big a problem as you think. He's a powerful allomancer, but he doesn't know everything. If he did, we'd be dead right now. He's not omnipotent either. If he were, he wouldn't have needed to execute all of those Ska to try to frighten the city into submission. I don't know what he is, but I think he's more like a man than he is a god. The words in that logbook, they're the words of an ordinary person. His real power comes from his armies and his wealth. If we remove them, he won't be able to do anything to stop his empire from collapsing.
He might not be a god, but he's something, Kelsier. Something different. Today, when he was in the square, I could feel his touch on my emotions, even when I was burning copper.
She said it. Good. Yes. And this affirms that she did feel it, despite what Kelsier is about to say.
No, exactly. Right. I'm happy to have called it. Woohoo!
Yes. That's not possible, Vin, Kelsier said with a shake of his head. If it were, Inquisitors would be able to sense allomancy when there was a smoker nearby. If that were the case, don't you think they'd hunt down all of the Ska mistings and kill them?
That's sorry. Yeah, that's not good enough reasoning for me.
No.
That he's immediately applying whatever this feeling despite copper. If he was he's immediately applying that to Inquisitors. Like, no. Something about the Lord Ruler is different. Something about his allomancy is different. We're not saying she's not questioning the rules of allomancy. She's not questioning the rules of copper. She's questioning what he does to them, how they apply to him, what he is doing.
Exactly.
So he's just stuck in his usual, this is just the way the world is kind of thing. He won't question it because as much as he thinks he's got, and I mean, we've been very happy about his flexible, his ability to take information in and then adjust to it. He's not doing that here. He's just, that's impossible. Boom. Dismissed. Shakes head. Like, what? I think I understand the impulse to dismiss it.
And his logic is reasonable.
Yeah, it's reasonable, but it does jump. It makes a step that she didn't make and that she's not making. It misses her point. It's like,
Yes.
oh, what's impossible? Boom. Instead of questioning, wait a second, he could be different. Normal Elementy can be normal Elementy. Like he goes immediately to like, oh, Inquisitors could then feel it. So maybe it's also just the way he's he applies Vin's feeling to the Inquisitors. Like it's
Mhm.
no, it's a big jump, and I feel like he makes it because it's convenient. Because that would be another problem if he thinks about it the way Vin's thinking about it. That would be a problem, and I'm hoping that despite him saying that's not possible, he thinks about this. He keeps it in mind.
I
So as
think
much
it
as
would
he,
be in character for him to think on it at a later
yeah,
point.
yeah. So he kind of could do the fatherly thing of nah, it's nothing to worry about, but then actually thinks about it.
And there's that meta element of it wouldn't be in the book if it wasn't important. This wouldn't be a plot point if it wasn't important.
Yes. So it's going
And
somewhere. Yeah.
yes, and we now know that Vin is the daughter of the Pope, essentially.
That is a good why didn't you say that the last episode, did you say it?
I
That is
don't think I did, but
Finish the daughter of the Pope. I love that. Yeah, I don't think we characterize the father as the Pope. That's pretty good. I like
thank
that.
you. And here I am wondering if there might be genuinely some blood connection between Vin and the Lord Ruler
Yeah.
because of it.
Mm. Because
Um,
okay, but then how would the Lord Ruler be related to his churchmen?
well, if Vin's father is essentially like the highest one can be in any hierarchies in this world, just
Mm.
shy of the Lord Ruler, I have to imagine that that spot is reserved only for descendants of those who were very, very closest to the Lord Ruler, which is how I'm wondering if maybe it's a relative.
Hmm. Oh, we haven't had much exposed about. He doesn't seem to have any sort of heir, so
Yeah,
I don't know
this one
what
is
a cousin or something. Like,
certainly a bit far out there.
yeah. I would say, look, the prophecy says bloodless bond, so doesn't have to be blood.
True. And I mean, we also know that the Pope, Vin's father, outranks the Inquisitors themselves, and that this upsets the Inquisitors. So
Mm-hmm. Who's
one
your father?
might imagine that he, Vin's father, is more powerful in some respects, possibly, that maybe he can out Alamance them.
Hmm. Or is it just
Hmm.
a given? Hmm. Hmm. Is it a given? Is it a privilege of his the hierarchy? It's just where he is in the hierarchy that he is above them. They have to listen to him. Oh,
Right.
we are speculating even more than usual. I feel.
And but Vin is about to have a very specific thought. Let's get to the thought and then continue this.
Mm-hmm. Uh,
You know the Lord Ruler is strong, and you feel like you should still be able to sense him, so you do.
Maybe he's right.
She thought, picking off another bit of the windowsill.
He's been an Alamancer for far longer than I have, after all. But I felt something, didn't I? And the Inquisitor that nearly killed me, somehow he found me in the darkness. And Rain. He must have sensed something.
The Inquisitor was able to sense her.
Hmm.
That
Yeah,
is important. That is
yeah. I'm glad
so
she brought that up.
important.
I'm
Yeah.
glad she brought that up because I just left it behind as like, oh, it's just he managed. Okay, he just found you. But that is a big deal. She wouldn't bring this up now as well, like we're talking about.
If it
Uh,
weren't connected in some way.
exactly. Yeah, these are things that she's got like a list of things that are making her wonder about the powers of the Inquisitors, the Lord Ruler, all of that evidence, pieces of evidence that are making her question how this all works, which we know that that's so in character, and she wouldn't. Well, Branderson wouldn't bring it up here if it weren't either a red herring or relevant. Either way, it's relevant.
Yeah. She let the matter drop, however.
The 11th metal. Couldn't we just try it and see what it does?
It's not that simple. You remember how I told you never to burn a metal that wasn't one of the 10? Vin nodded. Burning another metal can be deadly. Even getting the wrong mixture in an alloy can make you sick. If I'm wrong about the 11th metal...
It will kill you.
Kelsier nodded.
So, you're not quite as certain as you pretend. Otherwise, you'd have tried it by now.
That's what she thought to herself.
That's what you want to find in the logbook. A clue about how to use the 11th metal.
I'm afraid we've had no luck in that respect. So far, the logbook hasn't mentioned allomancy at all.
Though it does talk about ferrochemy. However,
Okay.
I'm supposed to pronounce that. Yes.
Now, this part of the conversation is very important for the Kelsier gets so much wrong in this chapter thing. So first, I'm of the opinion that he's wrong about Vin being able to feel the Lord Ruler.
Absolutely. Agreed.
But here, he takes the assumption that the Lord Ruler is an allomancer at this point. And I don't think that's the case. We've repeated several times, I think, in the past that we think that whatever the Lord Ruler does is what results in allomancy. So I don't think... So this assumption that Kelsier makes, I just think is wrong.
This should... His lack of referencing it should be a red flag that makes him think, why hasn't he mentioned it? Is it because it doesn't exist yet? I understand that that's like paradigm shifting. That's crazy. It's world bending for him to think of it that way. But this is something that is possible when you are dealing with the Lord Ruler and the history of the Lord Ruler, and you are willing to accept he's not a god. Then you should be willing to question everything, I would say. Especially if you're this desperate as well. Like, your theories should be wild for a while. Like, we're speculating here because it's fun. But they would actually need to speculate and investigate as well.
It's like if a future historian 1,000 years from now is reading, say, Caesar's conquest of Gaul, and then this historian says, why doesn't Caesar ever talk about the internet in these writings?
Yes, that's a good parallel. Yeah, why didn't he just use the internet? Like, why didn't he just? Yeah, exactly. That's a good parallel. I like that.
Thank you. I mean, if I'm smart enough to think up the possibility, surely Kelsier is.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not even like smartness. It's more like, look, you have so few options. You should be thinking out of the box.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like, within world. Like, I know that we come up. I mean, what did we have? We're gonna have the other Mistborn try the metal and things like that. Like that's how we speculate that way for fun, and also just and Spook Vin's gonna be driven to the arms of Spook, that sort of thing. But no, this is in world. You should be speculating, Kelsier. This is something you need to think about more. And it's just coming back to me that this lack of mention should mean something, not just be, there is no allomancy there. Damn it, oh, shucks.
Exactly. So far, the logbook hasn't mentioned allomancy at all.
Though it does talk about ferrochemy.
Kelsier eyed her as he stood by his window, one shoulder leaning against the wall. So Saz had told you about that.
I kind of forced him to.
I wonder what I've unleashed upon the world by teaching you allomancy. Although my trainer said the same thing about me.
He was right to worry.
Of course he was. Vin smiled. Outside, the sunlight was nearly gone, and diaphanous patches of mist were beginning to form in the air. They hung like ghosts, slowly growing larger, extending their influence as night approached.
Sasa didn't have time to tell me much about ferrochemy,
Vin said carefully.
What kind of things can it do?
She waited in trepidation, assuming that Kelsier would see through her lie.
And
I loved that she lied.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, I enjoyed this kind of she's like, like, look, it's not huge betrayal lies, so I'm okay with it. It's her. Yes, it is manipulative, but that's what she's trying to find out information. So it was endearing for me, and it's like it's not a massive,
And
huge lie.
it's her being a little bit of a trickster.
Yeah. and you just think, she's just smiled, they've just had some banter sort of thing. So it was good. I don't know. I also had like happy feelings about that.
Yes. Feruchemy is completely internal. It can provide some of the same things we get from pewter and tin, strength, endurance, eyesight, but each attribute has to be stored separately. It can enhance a lot of other things too, things that allomancy can't. Memory, physical speed, clarity of thought, even some strange things like physical weight or physical age can be altered by feruchemy.
So it's more powerful than allomancy.
Kelsier shrugged. Feruchemy doesn't have any external powers. It can't push and pull emotions, nor can it steel push or iron pull. And the biggest limitation to feruchemy is that you have to store up all of its abilities by drawing them from your own body. Want to be twice as strong for a time? Well, you have to spend several hours being weak to store up the strength. If you want to store up the ability to heal quickly, you have to spend a great deal of time feeling sick. In allomancy, the metals themselves are our fuel. We can generally keep going as long as we have enough metal to burn. In feruchemy, the metals are mere storage devices. Your own body is the real fuel.
So you just steal someone else's storage metals, right?
Doesn't work. Feruchemists can only access metal stores they themselves created. So, a couple of things. One, that puts the kibosh on my supposition that it's like the internet and they can all access it.
Yeah.
The other thing to note there is I had been wondering, like, what is the practicality of making yourself weak overnight while you sleep? And it sounds like feruchemy has a sort of time element to it. You put an hour in and you can take an hour out, and then you can use up the hour over the course of, say, 30 minutes, and so on and so forth. There also seems to be sort of a supercharging element to it.
He does a division sort of thing that makes it, or a division and exponents. We need to ask Artem about this, but like it seems like the exponentiality and the amount of time you use this stored ability, it would matters. It would be so cool to be in the mind of how that works, because I don't know how it's applied, but she says it's more powerful than allomancy. What if you're an allomancer who can do feruchemy? Hello, that is our theory.
Yes.
Right? Okay, yeah, that's it. That's my theory, that he can do that. That's our theory, right? He can, and then because of that they are definitely linked. They are too closely linked for it not to be that they share some sort of origin point or something happening that made one become possible and the other carried on. Yeah. Good lore to know. You can't take someone else's. We did question whether that was possible, whether you had to use your own metals, that you can store it and leave it. How long can you leave it? That sort of questioning that we had when we first learned about this. Here is an answer. Yay.
Yes. And I'm sure we're going to get some more specific answers at some point in the future, because if there's one thing that Brandon Sanderson loves, it's writing these very specific magic systems. So no, I wouldn't say that feruchemy is more powerful than allomancy. They both have advantages and limitations. For instance, an allomancer can only flare a metal so high, and so his maximum strength is bounded. Feruchemists don't have that kind of limitation. If a feruchemist had enough strength stored up to be twice as strong as normal for an hour, he could choose instead to be 3 times as strong for a shorter period of time, or 4 or 5 or 6 times as strong for even shorter periods. Vin frowned.
That sounds like a pretty big advantage.
True, Kelsier said, reaching inside his cloak and pulling out a vial containing several beads of atium. But we have this. It doesn't matter if a feruchemist is as strong as 5 men or as strong as 50 men. If I know what he's going to do next, I'll beat him. Vin nodded. Here.
Okay, hold up.
Okay.
Yes. What if the ferrochemist also has atium? Hello? Because he's also an allomancer. That's what I'm saying. He's a ferrochemallomancer. So, so what happened? Ferrochemallomancer. Say it fast, yeah.
Ferrochemallomancer.
There we go. Coined. He's that. You said it very nicely. So then he's also got atium. So bum bum bum. What happens then? But this is just my theory. That's what just came to mind.
No, I'm grabbing that yarn, to quote Kitteh. Here, Kelsier said, unstoppering the vial and pulling out one of the beads. He took out another vial, this one filled with the normal alcohol solution, and dropped the bead in it. Take one of these. You might need it.
Tonight?
Kelsier nodded.
But it's Marsh.
It might be. Then again, maybe the obligators caught him and forced him to write that letter. Maybe they're following him. Or maybe they've since captured him and have tortured him to find out about the meeting. Marsh is in a very dangerous place. Think about trying to do the same thing you're doing at those balls, except exchange all the noblemen for obligators and inquisitors.
Vin shivered. I want that part in, because I was just like, whoo. Okay, anyway.
Vin shivered.
I guess you have a point. You know, something must be wrong with me. I barely even stop to think how much this stuff is worth anymore.
Kelsier didn't respond immediately. I have trouble forgetting how much it's worth.
I
loved that exchange.
Yeah. Damn!
Like I said, I think this may be Brandon Sanderson's best chapter so far.
It's a good chapter. I don't doubt that. Again, I guess you're not happy to say it's your favorite. So,
I mean, I think my favorite chapter, I think our read through of chapter 25 might have made it my favorite chapter, just because like that chapter is now associated with that memory.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a hard time. I haven't even thought what my favorite would be, but surely it has to be one of the scenes where all of the crew is together bantering.
Yeah. Love those. Look, it is a brilliant, and we did have that in this chapter as well. They weren't bantering, I suppose, but we did have them all together, being themselves, being the characters that we love. Hey, that is another thing we do when we get to the end. We have to think about, go and binge the episodes as well. And then think about which one's our favorites.
Yes.
Rank them, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, rank each chapter. That would be an endeavor. Okay. Vin trailed off, glancing down at his hands. He usually wore long-sleeved shirts and gloves now. His reputation was making it dangerous for his identifying scars to be visible in public. Vin knew they were there, however, like thousands of tiny white scratches layered one over the other. Anyway, you're right about the logbook. I had hoped that it would mention the 11th metal, but allomancy isn't even mentioned in reference to ferrochemy. The two powers are similar in many respects. You'd think that he would compare them.
Maybe he worried that somebody would read the book and didn't want to give away that he was an allomancer.
Maybe. It's also possible that he hadn't snapped yet. Whatever happened in those Terrace Mountains changed him from hero to tyrant. Maybe it also awakened his powers. We won't know, I guess, until Saz finishes his translation. So again, that's just an assumption that allomancy exists in the world at the time.
It's close. Yeah, it's close to what we want him to start thinking about. It's close enough. Like, oh, he hadn't snapped yet. What if the world hadn't snapped yet? Come on, Kelsier. Think about it. Okay. Is he close?
Only a bit left. The important bit, hopefully. I feel a little frustrated with the text so far. The Lord Ruler hasn't even told us what he's supposed to accomplish in those mountains. He claims that he's doing something to protect the entire world, but that might just be his ego coming through.
I related so hard to that. I'm just like, yeah, Kelsier, we've been spending this whole book talking about the flippin' logbook, okay?
Yes, but say that next line. He claims that he's doing something to protect the entire world, but that might just be his ego coming through.
He didn't seem very egotistical in the text to me. Kind of the opposite, actually.
Okay, this may be the cleverest line that Brandon Sanderson has written. All right?
Mm-hmm.
He's setting up this discussion about ego and two counter opinions regarding an interpretation of the Lord Ruler and who the Lord Ruler is. And we have had very conflicting epigraphs with the Lord Ruler, almost like they were two different people. And we are about to learn, and that's that for that line. But we are about to learn what gold does. And I don't think it does what Kelsier. I think gold splits the ego and the id. Or
Yes.
so to speak. More specifically, I think it shows you who you were and who you have become or are in the process of becoming. So I do think it sort of splits your psyche. And so for them to be having this conversation about the Lord Ruler, which is something entirely separate to gold and what gold does, I just think is so big-brained.
Masterful.
Or am I reading too much into it? What do you think, Kitteh?
No, I don't think you're reading too much into it. I love that. I really do. I don't feel like it's that far off. I don't think it's far-fetched. Now I'm going to be disappointed if that's not what's happened. It could be a happy accident that what you're saying about gold is true, and then whatever we're speaking about over here with the ego being next to it, that's a happy accident. But I don't feel like there are happy accidents when it comes to Brandon Sanderson.
I agree.
So, yeah. Masterful.
So, yeah. So just having these two different interpretations of the Lord Ruler from the journal, talk of ego, and then getting into the gold. It's just, I thought it blew me away.
Also, by the way, I think it's the 5th book. It's called Shadows of Self. Yeah. So,
exploration of gold. And look, Vin is smart enough to realize and to have learned that she can learn from Mistings who are specialists in their metal.
Yeah.
More so than from Kelsier and Mistborns. I bet someone who is a specialist in gold is such a self-actualized person. I bet they could do some incredible stuff. I don't know what, but I bet Brandon Sanderson knows what.
Yeah, that's another thing. How do we use this? You know, like I'm all for their current understanding not being good enough. You know, the past self. I mean, they don't really know, but I'm wondering, how do we use past and future self, or however you want to describe the two things that come out? How do you use them? That's weird. I want to know. I want to know. Can you show me? Anyway.
I want to know what gold is.
Okay, we are doing karaoke. Now, I think this is like the 3rd time this week that we've broken into song. For no reason.
Indeed. Regardless, we'll know more once the last few sections are translated. It was growing dark outside, and Vin had to turn up her tin to see properly. The street outside her window grew visible, adopting the strange mixture of shadow and luminance that was the result of tin-enhanced vision. She knew it was dark, logically, yet she could still see. Not as she did in ordinary light, everything was muted, but it was sight nonetheless. Kelsier checked his pocket watch.
How long?
Another half hour, assuming he's on time, and I doubt he will be. He is my brother, after all. Vin nodded, shifting so that she leaned with arms crossed across the broken windowsill. Though it was a small thing, she felt comfort in having the atium Kelsier had given her. Thinking of atium reminded her of something important. Something she'd been bothered by on several occasions.
You never taught me the 9th metal,
she accused him, turning. Kelsier shrugged. I told you that it wasn't very important.
Still, what is it? Some alloy of atium, I assume?
No, the last 2 metals don't follow the same pattern as the basic 8. The 9th metal is gold.
Gold? That's it? I could have tried it a long time ago on my own.
Assuming you wanted to. Burning gold is a somewhat uncomfortable experience. Vin narrowed her eyes, then turned to look back out the window.
We'll see,
she thought. You're going to try it anyway, aren't you? Kelsier said, smiling. Loved that exchange. Vin didn't respond. Kelsier sighed, reaching into his sash and pulling out a golden boxing and a file. You should probably get one of these, he said, holding up the file. However, if you collect the metal yourself, burn just a tiny bit first to make certain that it's pure or alloyed correctly.
If it isn't?
You'll know, Kelsier promised, beginning to file away at the coin. Remember that headache you had from pewter dragging?
Yes.
Bad metal is worse. Far worse. Buy your metals when you can. In every city you'll find a small group of merchants who provide powdered metals to allomancers. Those merchants have a vested interest in making certain that all of their metals are pure. A grumpy Mistborn with a headache isn't exactly the kind of slighted customer one wants to deal with. Kelsier finished filing, then collected a few flakes of gold on a small square of cloth. He stuck one on his finger, then swallowed it. This is good, he said, handing her the cloth. Go ahead. Just remember, burning the ninth metal is a strange experience. Vin nodded, suddenly feeling a bit apprehensive.
You'll never know if you don't try it yourself,
She thought, then dumped the dust-like flakes into her mouth. She washed them down with a bit of water from her flask. A new metal reserve appeared within her, unfamiliar and different from the 9 she knew. She looked up at Kelsier, took a breath, and burned gold. She was in 2 places at once. She could see herself, and she could see herself. One of her was a strange woman, changed and transformed from the girl she had always been. That girl had been careful and cautious, a girl who would never burn an unfamiliar metal based solely on the word of one man. This woman was foolish. She had forgotten many of the things that had let her survive so long. She drank from cups prepared by others. She fraternized with strangers. She didn't keep track of the people around her. She was still far more careful than most people, but she had lost so much. Okay, quick break.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like the Vin we have now, right?
Yes.
Go on.
Yeah, she says a little bit older, like a little bit more aged, like she probably doesn't look at herself that much. So it could be just she hasn't realized how much she physically looks different now.
Right. And it doesn't sound like an alternate version of her. It just sounds like the Vin that we have watched her grow into.
Exactly. Like it's believable that this could be a Vin that is more of what she is now occurring. So what I'm saying is like, and this has been in a year or something. So it's believable, but I do agree. This transformation's already happened. She's literally just described who she is now.
I agree completely. She might as well have been looking in the mirror thinking, gosh, I've changed so much. I'm not as careful as I used to be.
Yeah, exactly. It's like she lost so much, and then it's like, oh, someone she's taken metal from based on the word. She's trusting a man. It's like trusting one man. It's like, yeah, that's what she's doing. She's literally just, you're referring to something immediate that she's just done. So it is her. I felt that way. Yeah. I immediately went that way. Yeah.
Connection I just made in my mind is the repetition of the phrase, this is who you are. It's what you do. And now we have a gold that seemingly calls direct attention to who one is. The other her was something she had always secretly loathed. A child, really. Thin to the point of scrawniness, she was lonely, hateful, and untrusting. She loved no one, and no one loved her. She always told herself quietly that she didn't care. Was there something worth living for? There had to be. Life couldn't be as pathetic as it seemed. Yet it had to be. There wasn't anything else. Again, that sounds like Chapter 1 Vin. It doesn't sound like an alternate reality version of her. It says that the girl is younger, so it's not, well, a child.
And scrawny. Yeah, and like, could be, look, just the way the form it takes means something. So I understand. So I understand that the thinking they have about what gold does exists. I understand that. It's not completely far off. But so yes, you can think, okay, if Vin never became part of Kelsey's crew, this could be how she just carried on existing.
She still would be.
Yeah. So if she took a different path, she could have become like this, or stayed like that, if you know what I'm saying. But it very much seems like one was past and one is present.
Yeah. I still think it's both of them. Vin was both. She stood in two places, moving both bodies, being both girl and woman. She reached out with hesitant, uncertain hands, one each, and touched herself on the faces, one each. Vin gasped, and it was gone. She felt a sudden rush of emotions, a sense of worthlessness and confusion. There were no chairs in the room, so she simply squatted to the ground, sitting with her back to the wall, knees pulled up, arms wrapped around them. Kelsier walked over, squatting down to lay a hand on her shoulder. "It's all right,"
What was that?
she whispered. "Gold and atium are complements, like the other metal pairs. Atium lets you see marginally into the future. Gold works in a similar way, but it lets you see into the past, or at least it gives you a glimpse of another version of yourself had things been different in the past. But that is what I think is wrong. That was past Vin, right?
Yeah, and what would have been different for Vin, this present Vin or future Vin or whatever? Well, sorry, this present Vin that we've spoken about. She had still lost so much. It's not like she didn't have any loss. Like it is still described that she had lost. She didn't do this, she didn't do this, but she had still lost so much. So that makes me think, like, if there was an alternative Vin, it would be a Vin that hadn't lost.
Yeah.
And also she is saying Vin was both. I think it's like it's parts of who she is now.
I agree.
It just makes so much sense. Like if there were the good and bad parts of a person's self, that's kind of how it would
different.
That's something
Left
you
brain,
hate about.
right brain.
Yeah.
Id, ego.
Mm-hmm.
Who you are, who you want to be.
Mm-hmm. The two wolves inside you,
Yes.
Yeah. So it doesn't. It seems like it lets you know about it. Now, in the context of atium, I don't know.
True. We also know that these two metals don't work the way the others do. So who's to say that it has to be a past, look into the past thing?
Yeah. Okay. Vin sugared.
Vin shivered. The experience of being both people at once, of seeing herself twice over, had been disturbingly eerie. Her body still shook and her mind didn't feel right anymore.
More on that. Her mind doesn't feel right. It does feel like something has been split in her mind and then put back together. It's like she came back and had feelings of what was it, hatred and all kinds of, all feelings, as if she had just been split and brought back together. That's more of what I'm seeing here than seeing a copy of her or something of her in the past. I'm just, it has too much of an effect of on her now. I don't know. It's more internal. So yeah.
I feel like it has something to do with self-actualization.
Yeah. You could be this or you could be this.
Yeah.
If you lean into this, yeah.
Yeah. Coming to a deep understanding of oneself.
And not hating the one part of yourself, like accepting it and integrating it and becoming one person.
Yeah. Fortunately, the sensation seemed to be fading.
Remind me to listen to you in the future. Or at least when you talk about allomancy.
I tried to put it out of your mind for as long as possible, but you had to try it sometime. You'll get over it.
It's almost gone already. But it wasn't just a vision. Kelsier, it was real. I could touch her, the other me.
It may feel that way, but she wasn't here. I couldn't see her, at least. It's a hallucination. Again, I don't necessarily think he's right. I mean, he might be right. He's probably closest to being right about this one, but it was real enough to have an effect on her.
Yeah, I'm thinking he's a little off, at least.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be as certain as he is. Atium visions aren't just hallucinations. The shadows really do show what people will do.
Yours says aren't really. Mine says visions are more than hallucinations.
Mine says aren't just. Yeah.
Interesting. True. I don't know. Gold is strange, Finn. I don't think anybody understands it. My trainer, Gemmel, said that a gold shadow was a person who didn't exist, but could have. A person you might have become, had you not made certain choices. Of course, Gemmel was a bit screwy, so I'm not sure how much I'd believe of what he said. Now, first off, Gold Shadow. That sounds really cool.
Gold Shadow. We have a term for them.
Yeah, and I think Gemmel was wrong, if that's how Gemmel put it.
It seems like you can just interpret it however you want because it's so abstract.
Yeah, it sounds a little closer to accurate, but again, I'm not quite sure that describes what we experienced through Vin's mind. So
I wonder if she experiences it somewhat differently, maybe more powerfully than other people.
Oh, that's possible too.
Maybe she's better at it because, when she burns metals, she's instinctively been very good at it and had more ability with it than other Allomancers. So her experience might be a little bit different to somebody. And I can't imagine many people just sit and burn, like, hone their skill with gold. I don't know. It's a bit obscure. So I would like to see what Kelsier sees when he burns gold.
Yes. That would be so interesting.
We need more data.
I want to know what Cruz Geffenry sees when he burns gold. Vin nodded. I want to see what the Lord Ruler burns. Sees when he burns gold. Vin nodded. However, it was unlikely that she'd find out more about gold anytime soon. She didn't intend to ever burn it again, if she could help it. She continued to sit, letting her emotions recover for a while, and Kelsier moved back over by the window. Eventually, he perked up.
He's here?
Kelsier nodded. You want to stay here and rest some more? Vin shook her head. All right, then, he said, placing his pocket watch file and other medals on the windowsill. Let's go. They didn't go out the window. Kelsier wanted to maintain a low profile, though this section of the twists was so deserted that Vin wasn't sure why he bothered. They left the building via a set of untrustworthy stairs, then crossed the street in silence. The building Marsh had chosen was even more run down than the one Vin and Kelsier had been sitting in. The front door was gone, though Vin could see remnants of it in the splintered refuse on the floor. The room inside smelled of dust and soot, and she had to stifle a sneeze. A figure standing on the far side of the room spun at the sound. Kel? It's me. And Vin. As Vin drew closer, she could see Marsh squinting in the darkness. It was odd to watch him, feeling like she was in plain sight, yet knowing that to him she and Kelsier were nothing more than shadows. The far wall of the building had collapsed, and mist floated freely in the room, nearly as dense as it was outside.
You have ministry tattoos,
Vin said, staring at Marsh. Okay, let's take a quick moment there. I never put word to it, and I wish I had now. I felt like I knew this was coming, that Marsh would have to get the tattoos. And that feels so significant, especially now that we know just how much he truly hates the Obligators.
Yeah. It just did not cross my mind. I didn't think of how far it would have to go. I was just busy going, okay, yeah, there, we got to get him there. I was very practical about it. Let's get him in there. It's like, wait a second, what happens after that? What does he have to actually do? I guess I was just like, oh, it would be longer before he got his tattoos. But even so, yeah, this is now indelible. He's in it, so no matter what, he looks like an obligator. We know he's on our side, but now look what he's doing. And also shows how much he's willing to sacrifice.
Yeah, that really feels like a significant thing, and I kind of wish we could have gotten a Marsh POV of him committing to getting those tattoos. I want to know what went on in his mind.
Yeah, that would have been so rich of an experience.
Certainly, Marsh said, his voice as stern as ever. I had them put on before I met up with the caravan. I had to have them to play the part of an acolyte. They weren't extensive, as he was playing a low-ranked obligator, dark lines rimming the eyes, running outward like crawling cracks of lightning. There was a single line, much thicker and in bright red, running down the side of his face. The pattern was unmistakable to Vin. These were the lines of an obligator who belonged to the Canton of Inquisition. Marsh hadn't just infiltrated the ministry, he'd chosen the most dangerous section of it.
But you'll always have them. They're so distinctive. Everywhere you go, you'll be known as either an obligator or a fraud.
And that was part of the price he paid to infiltrate the ministry, Vin. Kelsier said quietly. It doesn't matter. I didn't have much of a life before this anyway. Look, can we hurry? I'm expected to be somewhere soon. Obligators lead busy lives, and I only have a few minutes leeway. All right. I assume your infiltration went well then. It went fine. Too well, actually. I think I might have distinguished myself from the group. I assumed that I would be at a disadvantage since I didn't have the same 5 years of training that the other acolytes did. I made certain to answer questions as thoroughly as possible and to perform my duties with precision. However, I apparently know more about the ministry than some of its members do. I'm certainly more competent than this batch of newcomers, and the prelanes have noticed that. You always were an overachiever, Marsh snorted softly. Anyway, my knowledge, not to mention my skill as a seeker, has already earned me an outstanding reputation. I'm not sure how closely I want the prelans paying attention to me. That background we devised begins to sound a bit flimsy when an inquisitor is grilling you.
You told them that you're a misting?
Of course I did. The ministry, particularly the Canton of Inquisition, recruits noblemen seekers diligently. The fact that I'm one is enough to keep them from asking too many questions about my background. They're happy enough to have me, despite the fact that I'm a fair bit older than most acolytes. Besides, he needed to tell them he was a misting so that he could get into some more secretive ministry sects. Most of the higher-ranking obligators are mistings of one sort or another. They tend to favor their own kind. With good reason. Kel, the ministry is far more competent than we assumed. What do you mean? They make use of their mistings. Good use of them. They have bases throughout the city, soothing stations as they call them. Each one contains a couple of ministry soothers whose only duty is to extend a dampening influence around them, calming and depressing the emotions of everyone in the area. Okay, so first off,
Big
cool.
reveal.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously terrible, but cool.
Yeah.
Don't do that. That's evil, but cool. Oh, it's like it makes sense. That's a totally logical thing to do if you're the Lord Ruler.
Yeah, why didn't I think of that?
And then my mind had immediately gone to, can you so easily disseminate squads of hundreds of people into the city knowing that there are these places that will be dampening them? That's bound to make them less effective. But at the same time, now that we have this information, we can take steps to work around them.
Exactly what I was going to say. It's cool. Then we just have some breezy guys going around, going in to visit the squads and just perk them up every now and then. I don't know. Yeah, we take them out. I don't know. That also adds to the thing that, wait a second. So there is some influence that has caused Scar that helps to keep Scar under wraps, keeps them down, so like unwilling to rebel. That's been something that we've been wrestling with, is how really downtrodden the Scar are. But they aren't as downtrodden as we thought, because at least in the city, I would say, they are being numbed, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So there is something we can do to make the masses join in. It seems like this is an opportunity. Yeah.
Imagine being depressed for your whole life and then suddenly the fog cloud, mist, fog cloud, finally clears.
Yes. It makes sense. So yeah, it's opportunities. This is big reveal, and of course, that means consequences, far-reaching, new plans. What are we going to do with this information? Excited!
Kelsier hissed quietly. How many? Dozens. Concentrated in Ska sections of the city. They know that the Ska have broken spirits, but they want to make sure things stay that way. Bloody hell! I always thought that the Ska inside Luthadel seemed more beaten down than the others. No wonder we had so much trouble recruiting. The people's emotions are under a constant soothing. Marsh nodded. The ministry soothers are good, Cal. Very good. Even better than Breeze. All they do is soothe all day, every day. And since they're not trying to get you to do anything specific, instead only keeping you from extreme emotional ranges, they're very hard to notice. Each team has a smoker to keep them hidden, as well as a seeker to watch for passing allomancers. I'll bet this is where the Inquisitors get a lot of their leads. Most of our people are smart enough not to burn when they know that there's an obligator in the area, but they're more lax in the slums. Can you get us a list of the stations?
Why
We
did I
need
want to
know.
say that? Sorry, go back.
I mean, do you want to take over the role of
No,
Calciarella?
thank you. I just got so excited. I think.
Can you get us a list of the stations? We need to know where those seekers are, Marsh. Marsh nodded. I'll try. I'm on my way to a station right now. They always do personnel changes at night to maintain their secret. The upper ranks have taken an interest in me, and they're letting me visit some of the stations to become familiar with their work. I'll see if I can get a list for you. Kelsier nodded in the darkness. Just don't be stupid with this information, all right? We have to be careful, Cal. The Ministry has kept these stations secret for quite some time. Now that we know about them, we have a serious advantage. Don't waste it. I won't. What about the Inquisitors? Did you find anything out about them? Marsh stood quietly for a moment. They're strange, Cal. I don't know. They seem to have all of the allomantic powers, so I assumed that they were once Mistborn. I can't find out much else about them, though I do know that they age. Really? So they're not immortal? No. The Obligators say that the Inquisitors change occasionally. The creatures are exceedingly long-lived, but they do eventually die of old age. New ones must be recruited from nobleman ranks. They're people, Kel. They've merely been changed. Okay, and that was what spawned my note, I think, about whether or not the eye spikes are metal mines and that they are using like some sort of massive metal mine to extend their life.
Interesting theory. Yeah, I see why you got there. And I'm like, could be these guys. Oh, like, just, they are strange. Thank you, Marsh, for sure. But yeah, also confirmation that could have been Mistborn, and yeah, they were people, which is so, but they all look the same, kind of. I don't know. Whatever transformation happens to them, damn, it's freaky. I want to know more, as usual.
If they can die of old age, then there's probably other ways to kill them too. That's what I think. I'll see what I can find, but don't get your hopes up. The Inquisitors don't have many dealings with normal obligators. There's political tension between the two groups. The Lord Prelin leads the church, but the Inquisitors think that they should be in charge. Interesting, Kelsier said slowly. Vin could practically hear his mind working on the new information. Oh, you know he's going to set up some sort of tension between the Inquisitors.
Between them. Yeah. It's like, okay, let us make more chaos. Let's sow discord.
Yeah, this is a lot of really, really valuable. It really is so valuable to them.
And it's this, yeah, and this tiny, short little conversation, like it's worth all the risk. This kind of information is so valuable. But look, you can understand why Marsh would take this risk. So I'm very worried about Marsh. Like the fact that he's trying to get that list, that's scaring me. I'm like, oh god, like a list is a bit much. Like what written on paper? Oh my god, like I'm worried, and it makes me realize yes how dangerous this is. But as you've just said, so valuable, so worth it. Go Marsh.
Anyway, I should go. I had to jog all the way here, and I'm going to be late getting to my appointment anyway. Kelsier nodded, and Marsh began to move away, picking his way over the rubble in his dark obligator's robe. Marsh, Kelsier said as Marsh reached the doorway. I love this part. I'll explain why after. Marsh turned. Thank you. I can only guess how dangerous this is. I'm not doing this for you, Cal. But I appreciate the sentiment. I'll try to send you another missive once I have more information. Be careful. Marsh vanished out into the misty night. Kelsier stood in the ruined room for a few minutes, staring after his brother.
He wasn't lying about that either. He really does care for Marsh.
Let's go. We should get you back to Mansion Renault. House Lacalle is throwing another party in a few days, and you'll need to be there. I loved that exchange at the end. Stories that really affect me, stories that I love, are father-son stories and sibling stories.
Yeah.
And that was just so full of, oh, they really do care about each other.
Yeah, in their own way. Like, he still has this resentment for Calcia. It's like, I'm not doing it he won't say that he's doing it for you, but he did kind of acknowledge the sentiment that he's saying thank you. It's the complexity of the relationship is on display there, but it's, as Vin said, they do care about each other. So it was really a great moment, a deep moment.
Yep. So I think I've made my opinions on this chapter known.
In summary, because I had very vague things about it in the beginning. I agree with it being a very very well written chapter. It's masterful. It's one of the really, just all of it has been written really well for me. There were some that were clunky, it seemed, but it's another good chapter for me. I love the information and the intrigue that this chapter brought to the fore. That was what I was stuck on more than actually just the way it was crafted. But I enjoyed appreciating that now with you.
Yeah.
So,
no, I'm still very much living in that one exchange about how Kelsier thought that the Lord Ruler was operating from his ego, and how Vin didn't think that's the case. I think that is a really interesting thing.
What does it say about Kelsier? Does it say Kelsier is recognizing ego in other people, or Kelsier is viewing people as having egos like his, so he will be more sensitive to thinking that somebody's acting out of ego?
I mean, it may be, it's certainly an indicator, I think, to me, that he is more like the Lord Ruler than he would probably like to admit.
Yeah, agreed. We have already made the comparison, but he's just like frustrated and hasn't. He wouldn't think about that. But Vin's like, Vin's sight is tingling. So great chapter, and now we get to read more. Yay! We're on our way. Got a few left.
I'm so excited. Yes. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Is there anything else to say?
Yes, you know what? You should like this video and make sure that you subscribed and you've got your notifications on, so you know when No One Asked You podcast is going live, or not going live, sorry. I'm just, listen, just put your notifications on to know when the next episode is being released.
And if you have not subscribed to ThatDarnKitteh, please do so. I highly encourage it because her videos are incredible. The diagrams that she has been making at the time of recording the last few weeks are really fantastic. She's even covering some Game of Thrones videos and diagramming them out. So that's neat. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.